Your life changes the moment you take control of your choices and your money. Have you ever looked at your bank account and felt frustrated, wondering why no matter how hard you work, you never seem to get ahead? Have you noticed people around you growing richer, building opportunities, and living freely while you feel stuck in the same place? The truth is, wealth is not about luck or talent. It starts with your mindset, your habits, and the decisions you make every single day. This video will guide you step by step from being broke to creating real financial freedom. You will learn how to take control of your thoughts, your time, and your actions so that every day moves you closer to the life you want. If you are ready to stop repeating the same mistakes, start building practical habits that grow your income, and finally take control of your future, this guide will show you exactly how. Real change begins here. And it begins with you. Chapter 1. Change your daily mindset because your thinking shapes your money. You know, the first thing a person must understand when moving from a broke life to a richer life is this simple truth: the mind leads and everything else follows. A person's money problems do not start in the wallet, they start in the way they think every day. When the mind stays full of doubt, the choices stay small. When the mind stays heavy with fear, the actions stay weak. When the mind stays focused on what is missing, the person stays stuck in the same old life. But when a person changes what they feed their mind each day, their direction begins to shift. The world does not change, but their way of seeing the world changes, and that alone opens new paths that were invisible before. When I talk about changing the daily mindset, I am not talking about big speeches or complicated ideas. I am speaking about the small thoughts that flow through a person's head from morning to night. These thoughts touch every feeling, every decision, and every action. Most people do not notice these thoughts. They walk through life on automatic mode. They wake up with the same worries they carried yesterday. They speak the same negative lines. They expect the same unwanted results. And they keep getting them, not because they lack potential, but because they allow old patterns to control their days. A person who wants to grow must first stop and observe what the mind is doing. Notice how fast it pulls you toward fear when you think about money. Notice how fast it tells you that you are not ready. Notice how fast it reminds you of past failures. These inner voices are not enemies. They are leftovers from old experiences and old beliefs that were never updated. If you do not challenge them, they will guide your entire life. But if you face them honestly, you begin to regain control. The first step toward a richer life is building a mindset that supports progress instead of blocking it. This starts with developing a clear picture of the person you want to become. Not a fantasy, not an impossible dream, a real image of a stronger version of yourself. A person who makes wiser choices. A person who is patient with the process. A person who handles money with respect. A person who does not give up at the first sign of discomfort. When you see that version clearly, you begin to adjust your daily thinking to match it. Many people try to improve their life without improving their mindset. They try new jobs, new plans, new ideas, but nothing changes because the old thinking follows them everywhere. A person who sees themselves as unprepared will walk away from opportunities even when those opportunities are right in front of them. A person who sees themselves as unlucky will ignore the chances that show up. A person who sees money as a constant problem will always feel behind even when they begin earning more. Without a mindset shift, no external change lasts. When you change your thinking, you begin to look at life differently. You stop asking why things are hard and start asking how you can improve. You stop blaming luck and start taking responsibility. You stop saying you cannot do something and start asking what steps you can take today. This shift may seem small, but it builds a new direction for your life. Every rich life begins with this kind of internal change. A strong mindset also means being honest with yourself. You cannot grow if you hide from your weaknesses. If your spending lacks discipline, you must face it. If your emotions control your decisions, you must admit it. If your habits waste your time, you must recognize it. Honesty is not always comfortable, but it is necessary. When you accept your starting point, the road forward becomes clear. You stop pretending and start improving. One powerful way to reshape your daily mindset is by controlling what you give attention to. The mind becomes what you repeat. If you spend your day thinking about scarcity, you feel poor even when you have enough. If you spend your day thinking about failure, you act with fear. If you spend your day comparing yourself to others, you lose your sense of direction. But if you fill your mind with thoughts that support growth, you begin to feel stronger from within. You can train your mindset with simple daily habits. Begin your morning with questions that guide your thinking toward improvement. Ask yourself what matters most today. Ask yourself what behavior needs correction. Ask yourself how you can become more effective. These questions push your mind toward clarity and direction. They keep you from falling back into old patterns. They remind you that each day is a chance to walk toward a richer life. Your environment also affects your mindset. The people you speak with, the conversations you have, the information you consume all shape your thinking. If you spend your time around people who complain, you absorb their tone. If you listen to people who quit easily, you begin to doubt your own endurance. But if you surround yourself with people who value growth, your mindset strengthens naturally. You begin to pick up their habits. You start hearing language that encourages progress. You start to believe that improvement is possible in your own life. Your thinking also shapes your emotional world. A broke mindset often brings feelings of fear, frustration, and hopelessness. A growing mindset brings feelings of confidence, calmness, and direction. These emotional states influence every financial decision you make. A person who feels afraid spends money to feel better in the moment. A person who feels confident saves money because they trust their future. A person who feels lost avoids opportunities. A person who feels prepared takes them. This is why daily thinking matters so deeply. It becomes the emotional foundation for your financial actions. You must also learn to think long-term. A broke mindset wants quick results. It wants success today, without the effort. It wants comfort now, even if it costs the future. But a rich mindset understands time. It understands that every small action builds the next stage of life. It understands that consistent improvement creates real stability. When you think long-term, your daily behavior changes. You treat your habits with more seriousness. You treat your money with more respect. You treat your time with more value. This mindset alone can shift your entire financial future. A richer mindset also means being open to learning. You cannot grow if you believe you already know everything. You cannot earn more if you believe your current skills are enough. You cannot expand if you believe change is too difficult. Learning keeps your mind flexible and ready. It allows you to see solutions where others see problems. It allows you to find opportunities where others feel trapped. When you commit to learning something new each day, your mind becomes an asset instead of a burden. Another important part of mindset is the ability to stay calm in difficult moments. A broke mindset reacts too quickly. It becomes emotional. It becomes impatient. It makes decisions without thought. But a rich mindset pauses. It thinks. It evaluates. It chooses actions that support long-term growth instead of short-term comfort. This calm thinking builds discipline, and discipline builds wealth. When your mind becomes steady, your choices become steady. your results follow. Changing your mindset also means raising your expectations of yourself. When you expect little, behavior stays small. When you expect more, behavior rises. You begin showing up earlier. You begin working with more focus. You begin keeping your promises. You begin treating your goals with more seriousness. These small improvements build confidence. Confidence builds action. Action builds results. All of this begins in the mind. A person who wants to move from broke to rich must commit to shaping their mind every day. Not once in a while, not only when life feels difficult, every day. Your mind needs training, just like your body. If you feed it weak thoughts, it becomes weak. If you feed it strong thoughts, it becomes strong. Make your mindset your daily responsibility. Guide it on purpose. Do not let it drift into fears and doubts. Build it into a place where strong decisions come naturally. When your thinking improves, your life begins to catch up. You start acting with direction. You start choosing better habits. You start handling money with clarity. You start trusting your ability to grow. This shift does not happen overnight, but it does happen. A richer life begins with richer thinking. Not in terms of fantasy, but in terms of responsibility, clarity, patience, action, and growth. You have the ability to change your mindset at any moment. You do not need approval. You do not need permission. You only need to choose a better direction for your thoughts. When you do that consistently, life begins to open in ways you once believed were out of reach. A person becomes rich, first in the mind, then in daily behavior, and then in results. That is the true starting point for anyone who wants to rise from a broke life to a richer one. Chapter 2. Fix your morning routine so your whole day improves. Your morning is the first agreement you make with your life each day, and if that first agreement is weak, the rest of the day will follow the same pattern. When a person feels broke, lost, or behind, the morning becomes a heavy moment. They wake up tired, they wake up with worry, they wake up thinking about old problems before they even take their first step. This early state controls their tone, their energy, and their choices. Fixing your morning routine is not about perfection or strict discipline. It is about taking back control of how your day begins, so your mind and actions move in a stronger direction. Most people wake up and enter the day in reaction mode. Their mind jumps straight to unfinished tasks, unpaid bills, old mistakes, or the stress waiting for them. They pick up their phone before they even take a deep breath. Messages, social media, notifications, everything hits them before they are mentally ready. In that moment, the day is already pulling them. They are not leading the day. The day is leading them, and when the day leads you, your progress slows down. You end up doing things without intention. You end up moving without clarity. You end up feeling like you are running, but not getting anywhere. But when you fix your morning routine, you give yourself the space to start with purpose instead of pressure. A morning routine does not need to be complicated. It just needs to help you build presence and direction. The way you wake up influences how you think, work, speak, and respond. When you wake up with intention, you feel different, more stable, more grounded, more aware of what truly matters. This small shift can change the quality of your decisions throughout the entire day. That is why people who grow consistently take their mornings seriously. They understand that a strong morning reduces anxiety, increases focus, and builds a mindset prepared for progress. A good morning routine begins with giving yourself a few quiet moments before your mind is filled with noise. For a few minutes, you sit in the awareness of being alive and in control of your next steps. This quiet moment helps you settle your thoughts and release the heavy energy you carried yesterday. Many people skip this step because they believe they do not have time. But the real truth is that this step creates time. When your mind becomes calm early in the day, you work faster and you think more clearly. You avoid mistakes that come from rushing. You save energy instead of wasting it. One of the most important things you can do in the morning is reconnect with your priorities. Not the long list of tasks you need to complete, but the key actions that move your life forward. A broke person often spends their day reacting to urgent things and ignoring important things. A rich person builds their day around what actually matters. This mindset begins in the morning. When you know what your true priorities are, you stop chasing everything and start building something. You begin to act with purpose, not panic. Another powerful part of a morning routine is giving attention to your physical state. The body influences the mind more than people realize. When your body feels slow, your thinking becomes slow. When your energy is low, your motivation stays low. A few minutes of movement in the morning can change your state instantly. It wakes up your system, boosts your clarity, and makes you more alert. It does not need to be extreme. It can be stretching, walking, breathing exercises. Anything that brings your body into a more awake state. When your body feels ready, your mind becomes ready too. You also need a moment of self-honesty in your morning. Look at your behavior from yesterday and adjust what needs improvement. This is not about judging yourself harshly. It is about staying aware of your progress. When you practice self-honesty every morning, you build accountability. You stop pretending. You stop hiding from your weak spots. You start correcting them, one day at a time. This habit creates long-term growth because it keeps you improving instead of repeating old mistakes. A person who is honest with themselves in the morning leads a much stronger day. Another valuable part of a morning routine is choosing your emotional tone before the world chooses it for you. Emotions are powerful drivers. If you begin your day frustrated, your decisions will reflect that frustration. If you start irritated, people around you will feel it. If you begin your day anxious, your actions will lack confidence. You must set your emotional state deliberately. You do this by being grateful for small things, acknowledging what you can control today, and letting go of what no longer deserves your attention. This emotional grounding enhances judgment and builds inner stability. Your morning routine should also help you reconnect with your long-term goal. Life gets loud and distracting. You can lose sight of the bigger purpose behind your efforts. When you revisit your goals each morning, they stay alive in your mind. You remember what you are working toward. You act with intention instead of drifting. This habit creates discipline naturally. You do not force yourself to work. Your goals pull you forward. When your goals stay fresh, your behavior stays sharp. Another crucial part of fixing your morning routine is protecting your mental space from unnecessary noise. Many people start their day by checking negative news, scrolling through social media, or consuming content that drains their mind. This weakens focus and increases stress before the day even begins. You must learn to guard your mental environment. Choose what you allow in. Choose what deserves your attention. A healthy morning routine involves feeding your mind with something helpful, something that strengthens your thinking instead of weakening it. This could be a motivational message, a short reading, or a quiet reflection about your direction. Your morning must also include small actions that build confidence. Confidence does not come from big achievements. It comes from doing simple things well. Making your bed, cleaning your space, preparing your day. These small tasks send a message to your brain that you are capable and ready. They build momentum. People underestimate how much power small actions have on their self-belief. When you complete them early, you begin the day with a sense of progress. Progress creates energy. Energy fuels motivation. Motivation supports discipline. Another key part of your morning routine is planning your time realistically. A person with a weak morning often tries to do too much at once. They overload their schedule and end the day tired and disappointed. A strong morning routine involves deciding what matters most and focusing on. You choose 2 or 3 important tasks and commit to them. This keeps you from feeling overwhelmed and keeps your mind organized. A well-planned morning leads to a well-managed day, and a well-managed day creates long-term growth. Fixing your morning routine is also about training your mind to start with hope instead of doubt. Many people wake up expecting problems. They expect stress. They expect things to go wrong. This expectation shapes their energy and invites more negativity into their day. But when you start with a hopeful state, your behavior becomes more solution-focused. You respond to challenges with a calmer mind. You look for better ways to handle things. You train yourself to stay grounded instead of overwhelmed. This mental shift strengthens your resilience and sharpens your decision-making. One of the biggest advantages of a strong morning routine is that it prevents you from returning to old patterns. Growth is not only about learning new habits, but also about removing harmful ones. A poor morning routine brings back old behaviors, procrastination, wasteful choices, emotional reactions, and lack of direction. But when your morning is structured with intention, you interrupt those patterns before they begin. You set yourself up for better decisions automatically. Your mind becomes less vulnerable to chaos, and your day becomes more productive. A strong morning routine also builds character. When you wake up with purpose and discipline, you strengthen your inner leadership. You show yourself that you can guide your own life. This builds trust in yourself. You start believing in your ability to grow. You start seeing yourself as someone capable of progress. This matters deeply because financial growth is not only about skills or opportunities, it is about believing you can rise. When you trust yourself, you take action. When you take action, you move forward. It all starts with how you begin your day. Your morning also sets the tone for how you treat other people. When your mind is calm and focused, you communicate better. You stay patient. You stay clear. You stay intentional. This improves relationships, work performance, and problem solving. But when your morning is rushed and chaotic, your interactions reflect that chaos. You carry stress into conversations, decisions, and responsibility. Fixing your morning helps you become a better version of yourself in every area of life. Every morning gives you a chance to reset, a chance to realign with your goals, a chance to start fresh, a chance to grow, a chance to correct what went wrong yesterday. You do not need a perfect life to build a powerful morning routine. You simply need consistency. When your morning routine becomes stable, your life becomes stable. And from that stability, real improvement begins. You start making wiser financial decisions. You stop wasting time. You feel more confident. You feel more in control. You feel more capable. Fixing your morning routine is one of the simplest and most effective ways to shift your entire life. When the morning improves, the day improves. When the day improves, the week improves. When the week improves, the year improves. This is how a person transforms from broke to stable, from stable to strong, and from strong to wealthy, in mindset and in results. It begins with how you choose to start your morning every single day. Chapter 3. Question your old habits that keep you stuck in struggle. Every person who feels stuck in life is being held in place by habits they no longer notice. These habits operate quietly in the background, shaping choices, behavior, and results without asking for permission. You follow them because they feel familiar. You repeat them because they feel comfortable, but comfort often keeps a person in the same struggle year after year. If you want to move from a life of constant difficulty to a life of steady growth, you must begin by questioning the habits that built your current situation. You cannot rise while living on automatic mode. You cannot grow while protecting routines that no longer serve you. This chapter is about facing those patterns honestly and breaking the cycle that keeps you living the same day again and again. When you question your old habits, you shine a light on areas you have avoided for years. Most people carry routines they did not choose consciously. They learned them from their family, their environment, their past failures, or moments that left an emotional mark. These habits feel natural because you have repeated them for so long, but they are not helping you. They drain your energy. They hold back your progress. They fill your days with actions that keep you busy but not productive. Before you can build a better life, you must understand that your daily patterns are responsible for where you stand right now. A good place to start is by observing your everyday behavior without excuses. Look at how you spend your time when no one is watching. Notice the tasks you delay. Notice the distractions you allow. Notice the small decisions you avoid. You will see patterns that reveal why your progress has been slow. People often blame luck or circumstances, but their real enemy is the set of habits they repeat without questioning. These habits are so familiar that they feel harmless, but they have shaped your results more than any outside challenge ever had. When you begin to question an old habit, you must ask yourself when that habit started and why you still follow it. Many habits were formed during moments of fear or insecurity. Maybe you stopped trying new things because failure once embarrassed you. Maybe you developed a habit of spending too quickly because buying something gave you temporary comfort. Maybe you avoid planning because planning reminds you of responsibilities you once failed to meet. When you trace the origin of a habit, you understand why it feels so difficult to break. It is not simply behavior, it is emotional history. But now you are older. Now you are aware. And now you must decide if these habits deserve a place in your life anymore. Growth begins when you no longer protect the habits that have done nothing but hold you down. It takes courage to admit that you have been repeating patterns that damage your future. It takes maturity to say, this is not working for me anymore. This honesty is uncomfortable, but it is powerful. It opens the door to real change. One of the most damaging habits people carry is avoiding responsibility for their own life direction. They blame others, blame timing, blame situations, and blame anything that keeps them from looking inward. This habit creates a cycle of helplessness. When you question this habit, you realize that taking responsibility is not about blame. It is about taking control. The moment you claim ownership of your choices, you become capable of changing them. A person cannot improve their financial life, their mindset, or their future until they stop waiting for someone else to fix it. Another harmful habit is choosing easy comfort instead of meaningful progress. Comfort is satisfying in the moment, but it costs you in the long run. When you question this habit, you see that comfort rarely builds strength. Comfort rarely teaches discipline. Comfort rarely leads to new opportunities. Comfort protects the present but destroys the future. You must ask yourself how many times you picked ease over effort and how those choices shaped your current life. When you become aware of this habit, you can begin choosing discomfort that leads to growth instead of comfort that leads to stagnation. Many people also carry the habit of repeating negative thoughts without challenging them. These thoughts tell you that you are not ready, not capable, or not deserving. They shape your behavior quietly. They hold you back from applying for better jobs, learning new skills, or reaching out to new opportunities. When you question this habit, you begin noticing how often your mind works against you. You start pushing back. You start forming new thoughts that support your goals instead of limiting them. You stop letting past fears control your present choices. Another common habit is poor time management. People waste hours without realizing it because wasting time has become normal. They move slowly, take long breaks, delay important work, and stay distracted throughout the day. This habit steals your potential. It steals your future. When you question this habit, you begin to see how many opportunities were lost, simply because you were not using your time wisely. Better time use is not about working harder. It is about being aware of where your hours go and choosing activities that push your life forward. Another habit that keeps people stuck is the need to stay comfortable with familiar routines, even when those routines provide no growth. Familiarity gives a sense of safety, but it also creates limitations. When you question this habit, you realize that your greatest opportunities exist outside your current routine. You must be willing to step into new environments and try new methods. A better life requires new behavior. You cannot rise while holding on to routines designed for survival, not success. Some habits are emotional rather than behavioral. For example, many people have a habit of reacting too quickly when they feel stressed. This reaction creates damaged relationships, poor decisions, and unnecessary conflict. When you question this habit, you begin to understand how emotions have shaped your life. You start responding more calmly. You think before speaking. You choose actions that reflect your goals, not your temporary feelings. This habit alone can change your direction dramatically. Other habits come from childhood or early adulthood. Maybe you grew up around people who struggled financially, so you developed habits of fear around money. Maybe you saw people avoiding challenges, so you learned to avoid them too. When you question these inherited habits, you begin to see that they were never your choices. They were part of your environment, but your environment does not define your destiny. You are allowed to outgrow the habits that were handed to you. You are allowed to create new patterns that support the life you want. Another strong habit that holds people back is ignoring small problems until they become big problems. This habit affects finances, health, relationships, and work. When you question this habit, you realize that ignoring issues does not protect you. It makes life harder. Every small problem left unattended eventually becomes a large obstacle. When you begin addressing issues early, you build discipline and maturity. You feel more in control. You stop letting life push you around. You must also question the habit of letting your mood decide your actions. Many people only work when they feel like it. This habit destroys consistency. You cannot build a strong life by waiting for motivation. You must act based on purpose, not emotion. When you question this habit, you understand that your feelings can guide you, but cannot lead you. Your goals must lead you. Action must come first, and feelings will adjust later. People also carry the habit of holding on to old excuses. Excuses feel comfortable because they protect your ego, but they destroy your progress. When you question this habit, you acknowledge that excuses have cost you opportunities. They have kept you small. They have stolen your growth. When you let go of excuses, you begin finding solutions. You start creating movement instead of repeating limitations. Another harmful habit is staying around people who drain your focus and energy. Some relationships are built on negativity, gossip, or fear. When you question this habit, you begin to understand that your environment shapes your mindset. You cannot grow if you spend your time around people who refuse to grow. You must choose surroundings that encourage progress. You must protect your space from influences that keep you stuck. One of the most important habits to question is the habit of settling for less. Many people accept a small life because they believe something better is out of reach. This habit weakens ambition. It creates a belief that you should take whatever life gives you. When you question this habit, you begin to expect more from yourself. You raise your standards. You start aiming higher. You start believing that improvement is possible for you. This belief alone can transform your entire future. Questioning your old habits requires courage. It requires honesty. It requires discipline. But the moment you begin this process, your life starts shifting. You start noticing patterns you once ignored. You start seeing solutions you once avoided. You start feeling more in control of your direction. Old habits lose their power when you bring awareness to them. A person who questions their habits
builds freedom, freedom to change, freedom to grow, freedom to rise above their past. Your habits got you here, but they do not have to take you further. You can build new patterns grounded in clarity, strength, responsibility, and discipline. When you update your habits, you update your life. This is how you break the cycle of struggle and begin building the path toward a stronger, richer future.
Chapter 4. Raise your personal standards to stop accepting a small life. When you look at your life, one truth stands out more than anything else. You receive the level of life you allow. If the results in front of you seem small, limited, or far away from what you want, it usually means the standard you hold for yourself has stayed too low for too long. Most people don't realize this. They think their situation is shaped by luck, timing, or what someone else did to them. But your life changes the moment you decide you won't live at the same level anymore. The moment you stop accepting the same days over and over, the moment you say, in a quiet and honest way, that the old level is no longer enough for you, that moment is when your life begins to stretch. When I talk about raising standards, I don't mean pretending to be someone else or forcing yourself into an act. I'm talking about how you treat yourself, the expectations you place on your choices, and the quality of actions you allow. It's the silent agreement you make with yourself. Everyone has one. Some people have a weak agreement that says, "I'll do what I can when I feel like it." Others have a stronger one. "I will not go to bed without taking steps that move me forward." Those agreements decide everything, even when you don't notice them. You've seen people who keep repeating the same life every year. It isn't because they don't want more. It's because their standards stay low enough that nothing pressures them to grow. When your standards are low, you don't challenge your behavior. You don't question your choices. You don't demand more from your hours. And the tough part is, you don't even feel that you're doing anything wrong. You simply stay where you are because there is no internal push to rise. That's why raising your standards is one of the most important decisions of your life. It gives you the push you've been missing. A higher standard is not about perfection. It's about lifting the quality of your thinking and actions so they create a different kind of life. Think about how many times you told yourself you would start something later. Think about how often you settled for something you knew wasn't enough. Every time you accept less than what you want, you teach yourself that your needs are not urgent. And once you do that enough times, it becomes normal. But nothing changes until you raise your expectations of yourself. When you decide your time matters, when you decide your effort matters, when you decide your actions must match your goals. People often ask how they know if their standards are too low. The simple answer is this: look at your result. If your finances stay tight, if your energy stays low, if your progress moves slowly, if your goals remain out of reach, it means you've allowed behaviors that keep you at the same level. When you raise your standards, your behavior changes automatically. You choose differently because you no longer tolerate the old patterns. You start taking steps that you avoided before. You start saying no to things that once distracted you. You start showing up at a level you used to admire in others. And the best part is, you feel it internally. The change begins long before the results appear. You may remember times in your life when you accepted situations you didn't like. Maybe you stayed in the wrong environment. Maybe you kept spending money in ways that pushed you backward. Maybe you allowed people to influence you when they didn't deserve that place in your life. All of that comes from standards that were too low. When your standards rise, your decisions become clearer. You stop accepting behavior that pulls you down. You stop allowing people who drain your focus. You stop giving your hours to things that have no purpose. You start carrying yourself differently because your life now has rules. Some people here raise your standards and think it means setting goals. But goals are things you want in the future. Standards are the rules you follow today. Goals motivate you. Standards shape you. You need both, but standards do the heavy lifting because they control your daily actions. You can want success all day long, but if your standards allow you to waste hours, ignore responsibilities, or delay growth, the goal remains a dream. But when your standards tighten, your behavior upgrades. You take action earlier. You finish what you start. You stay honest with yourself. You don't let excuses grow roots. Think about the people you admire. They aren't different because of luck. They carry themselves in a way that commands better results. They refuse to waste time. They don't entertain distractions. They stay committed to their decisions even when it's uncomfortable. That comes from high standards. Their actions reflect respect for their own lives, and the moment you adopt that mindset, your life begins to match it. You don't need to become someone else. You simply need to stop accepting less from yourself. There is a moment in every person's life when they get tired of repeating the same patterns. It happens quietly. You sit there and realize you've been living below your potential. You notice how much time you've given away. You see how often you let fear guide you. And that moment can make you feel frustrated, maybe even angry. But instead of seeing that as a bad thing, understand that it's the first sign that you're ready for a higher standard. That feeling means your old level is no longer acceptable to your spirit. It means you're ready to break away from the cycle. If you want to raise your standards, start by being honest about what you've been allowing. Look at your habits. Look at your attitude. Look at the actions you keep repeating. You don't need to judge yourself. You just need to face your reality. When you see your patterns clearly, it becomes easier to demand more from yourself. You realize what needs to change. You realize what behaviors you must leave behind. You realize what habits have been holding you down. And that honesty becomes the foundation of your new standard. One of the most powerful parts of raising your standards is the way it changes how you feel about your life. When your standards are low, you often feel powerless. You feel like life is something that happens to you. You wake up and react to the day. But when your standards are higher, you feel more in control. You make decisions from a place of strength. You set boundaries. You choose your actions based on where you want to go, not how you feel in the moment. That shift gives you confidence. It gives you clarity. It gives you a sense of direction that you may have been missing for years. People sometimes worry that raising their standards will isolate them. And the truth is, it might. Some people won't like the new version of you. They were comfortable when you accepted less. They benefited when you stayed in the same place. They enjoyed it when you lowered your effort because it made them feel better about their own lives. But when you raise your standards, you make choices that separate you from those patterns. And while it may feel uncomfortable at first, it eventually brings you into environments that support your growth. High standards don't push people away. They filter out those who were never meant to stay. One thing you must understand is that raising your standards is not a one-time decision. It's a daily practice. You must choose the higher path every day until it becomes natural. You must remind yourself why you're choosing this new level. You must stay aware of the old habits that try to pull you back. Your old patterns will try to return because they're comfortable. They don't require growth, but you have to stay firm. High standards only become real when you apply them consistently. The more consistent you are, the faster your life transforms. Once your standards rise, you begin to notice opportunities you once ignored. You see potential in areas that looked impossible before. You take small steps that compound into big results. You feel more connected to your goals. You wake up with direction. You spend your time more wisely. You approach your day with intention. And when that becomes your normal behavior, your life starts to reflect the new standard.
People notice the difference. You notice the difference. And you begin to understand how much control you always had. A higher standard gives you a stronger identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone trying to improve. You start seeing yourself as someone who expects improvement. This shift changes the choices you make each day. And those choices build the life you want. Not through luck, not through force, but through steady, honest, consistent improvement. When you raise your standards, you stop settling. You stop hiding. You stop shrinking. You start expecting more, doing more, becoming more. And over time, the life that once felt unreachable becomes your new reality. Not because you wished for it, but because you refused to accept anything less.
Chapter 5. Push yourself to learn skills that open real opportunities. Most people want a better life, but they never develop the skills that can carry them there. They hope their situation will change through effort alone, or by waiting for a chance to come to them. But life does not move in that direction. Life responds to the level of ability you build. Your skills decide your opportunities. Your skills decide how far you can grow. Your skills decide the kind of life you can step into. If you want to open real doors, you must push yourself to learn the abilities that make those doors possible. This is where your transformation begins, not in wishing, not in dreaming, but in building yourself so strong that opportunities cannot ignore you. When I was younger, I learned something that stayed with me forever. You don't get paid by the hour. You get paid for the value you bring to the hour. And the only way to raise your value is by raising your skills. Some people stay stuck because they keep using the same abilities they learned years ago. They never update themselves. They never update themselves. They never stretch their mind. They never study anything new. They live the same year repeatedly, thinking it is life being unfair, while the real issue is that they have not grown. If you want a better income, you must become a person who can create better outcomes. That starts with learning. Look at anyone who has moved from struggle to stability. If you study their journey closely, you will notice a pattern. They invested time in developing skills that made them better problem solvers, better thinkers, and better decision makers. They didn't wait for someone to motivate them. They didn't wait for the perfect time. They looked at their life, saw what was missing, and pushed themselves to acquire the knowledge that could change their direction. You can do the same. You can start learning the skills that will shape the next stage of your life. Even if you feel behind, even if you feel unsure, even if you feel intimidated. Growth is not about feeling ready. Growth is about starting before you feel prepared. Sometimes people avoid learning new skills because they fear looking slow or inexperienced. They want to improve, but they don't want to face the early stage where everything feels confusing. But that is the stage that builds you. You cannot skip the beginning. Even the best in the world started poorly. They stumbled. They made mistakes. They struggled to understand things that now look simple to them. The difference between someone who stays stuck and someone who rises is not talent. It is the willingness to go through the uncomfortable phase of learning. That willingness creates progress. That progress creates opportunities. One of the most important things you can do is identify the skills that truly matter for your growth. Not every skill will change your life. Some skills make you busy, but not better. Some skills make you feel productive, but don't open any real doors for you. You need skills that increase your value. Skills that help you earn, solve problems, communicate effectively, lead, make good decisions, and handle pressure. Skills that make you useful in any environment. Skills that raise your confidence. Skills that give you options when life becomes difficult. When you learn these kinds of skills, you stop depending on luck. You start depending on your own ability. Right now, think about where you want your life to move. Think about the goals that matter to you. Think about the lifestyle you dream of building. Then ask yourself a direct question. What skills does that future require? Not what skills you already have. What skills you need to become the person you want to be. You may realize that the distance between you and your dream is not luck, not chance, not background, but missing abilities. That is actually a good realization, because it means you have power. You can learn. You can grow. You can close the gap through effort and discipline. You are not trapped. You are simply not trained yet. Every time you learn a new skill, your world expands. You start noticing opportunities you never saw before. Things that once felt out of reach begin to feel possible. You start understanding conversations that once confused you. You become the kind of person who can take action instead of staying stuck. This is why learning matters. It gives you power over your future. It gives you confidence in your decision. It gives you resilience. When life becomes difficult, people who stop learning fall behind. People who push themselves to grow stay prepared for whatever comes next. Some people tell themselves they don't have time to learn. But the truth is, everyone has time. The difference is how they use it. You can turn 30 minutes each day into a completely different life if you stay committed. You can turn an hour into a skill that changes your income. You can turn your free evenings into a future you once thought impossible. Time is not the issue. Focus is. Desire is. Discipline is. If something is important enough, you find the hours to build it. And when you see the results, you realize that the effort was worth it. You may feel overwhelmed by how much you need to learn. But don't let that stop you. Start with the first skill that matters most. Start small. Start slow, but start. You don't climb a mountain by jumping to the top. You climb it by taking step after step, even when those steps feel small. Every new skill begins with confusion. Every new skill begins with mistakes. But if you stay patient with yourself, those mistakes turn into progress. That progress turns into confidence. And that confidence turns into real opportunity. People sometimes believe they need to already be good at something before they begin. But life doesn't work that way. You get good by trying. You gain clarity by showing up. You build strength by staying consistent. And the more you practice, the more natural the skill becomes. There will come a moment when something that once felt difficult becomes so normal that you barely notice it. That moment feels powerful because you know you earned it. You put in the time. You stayed committed. You grew. One thing you must understand is that learning is not just about improving your income. Learning is about improving your identity. The more skills you build, the more capable you feel. You stop doubting yourself. You stop hesitating. You stop shrinking around challenges. You start believing in your ability to figure things out. That belief is the foundation of a strong life. People who believe they can learn anything never feel stuck. They may feel delayed, but not trapped. They may feel challenged, but not hopeless. They may feel unsure, but not defeated. Learning gives you inner strength. Now ask yourself a difficult but necessary question. How many opportunities have you missed because you didn't have the skills to take them? How many chances passed you by because you weren't prepared? How many times have you wanted to change your situation, but felt limited by your own abilities? If those moments bother you, use that feeling as fuel. Not to shame yourself, but to push yourself. The pain of missed opportunities can become the energy you use to rise higher. Let it remind you that the next chance will find you ready. If you want real opportunities, you must train for them before they appear. You cannot wait until they show up to start preparing. Life rewards people who build themselves in advance. People who study when others relax. People who practice when others complain. People who sharpen their mind when others waste their hours.
The world has room for those who take their growth seriously. You can become one of them if you commit to learning the skills that shape your future. You must also understand that no one will force you to grow. No one will wake you up. No one will make you study. No one will push you to become more valuable. That responsibility belongs to you. And that is good news because it means your future is in your hands. You decide how far you rise. You decide how skilled you become. You decide how prepared you are for life's opportunities. Once you take ownership of your growth, you step into a new level of strength. Learning requires sacrifice. You may need to give up certain comforts. You may need to change how you spend your free time. You may need to distance yourself from people who don't care about growth. But the sacrifice is temporary. The skill lasts forever. Once you learn something, no one can take it from you. It becomes a part of you. It becomes your advantage. It becomes your security. The world can change, but your skills remain. That is why learning is the safest investment you can make. And remember this, you are never too late. It doesn't matter how long you've been stuck. It doesn't matter how far behind you feel. You can start learning now. You can build new abilities at any age. You can grow faster than you think. Life opens up for those who keep growing. It respects those who prepare. It rewards those who build themselves daily. If you push yourself to learn the skills that matter, you will eventually reach a point where opportunities come looking for you, not the other way around. You have the ability to change your direction. You have the ability to strengthen your life. You have the ability to learn anything you need to learn. The world is full of skills waiting for you to claim them. All you need is the willingness to begin and the discipline to continue. If you choose to grow every day, you will not only improve your life, you will transform it. And when you look back, you will realize that everything changed. The moment you decided to push yourself to learn the skills that create real opportunity.
Chapter 6. Choose harder actions that build long-term confidence. Most people live their lives choosing the easiest path. They look for the simplest way, the quickest solution, or the action that feels comfortable. That habit keeps them safe, but it also keeps them small. True growth does not happen in comfort. Real strength is built in moments where you take on challenges that feel uncomfortable, inconvenient, or even intimidating. The actions that are difficult in the moment create results that last a lifetime. Confidence is not born from convenience. Confidence is earned when you repeatedly do what others avoid. When you face resistance, and when you prove to yourself that you are capable of more than you believed. When you consistently choose harder actions, you start shaping your identity. You begin seeing yourself as someone who does not back down. You begin to understand that your limits are often illusions created by fear or habit. Each time you take an action that feels demanding, you send a clear message to yourself. You can handle pressure. You can endure struggle. You can succeed even when circumstances are tough. That internal certainty builds a confidence that no one can take away, because it is grounded in reality, not in wishes or praise from others. Most people underestimate the importance of these difficult choices. They believe that success comes from talent, luck, or opportunity alone. Those things matter, but they are secondary. The primary factor that separates people who grow consistently from those who remain stuck is their willingness to take on tasks that are challenging and uncomfortable. Making the hard choice repeatedly trains your mind to stay calm under pressure. It builds resilience, discipline, and a sense of self-reliance that cannot exist in a life filled with easy decisions. You begin to understand this when you see the results of avoiding challenges. When you choose comfort, you delay your growth. You allow doubt to linger. You allow fear to dictate your behavior. You avoid developing skills that could have opened doors. You stay small while others rise. Avoiding harder actions produces temporary relief, but long-term frustration. The small victories of easy choices never build a lasting sense of accomplishment. They never convince you that you can handle bigger obstacles. They leave you unprepared for the real tests life presents. Hard actions are not necessarily about extreme tasks or high-risk decisions. They are about doing what is necessary, even when it is uncomfortable. It can mean confronting difficult conversations, finishing tasks you have been delaying, practicing discipline when you feel tired, or committing to consistency when motivation is low. Each small decision to do what is difficult strengthens your confidence incrementally. These actions add up over time. They shape your character, your mindset, and the results you produce. This is how people move from uncertainty to certainty in their ability. Confidence built from hard actions is different from superficial confidence. It is not based on external validation or temporary success. It is grounded in evidence, proof that you can face difficulty and come through stronger. That type of confidence does not disappear when circumstances change. It grows because it is built on experience. You remember the moments when you persevered, and that memory fuels every future decision. You become someone who does not hesitate when new challenges appear, because you have already proven to yourself that you can endure and succeed. Most people avoid difficulty because it feels risky or exhausting. But the reality is that avoiding difficulty has its own risk. It risks leaving your potential undeveloped. It risks keeping you dependent on others, waiting for circumstances to improve. It risks leaving you unprepared when life demands more from you. The safe path feels easy, but it limits your ability to lead, influence, or create meaningful results. Every moment spent avoiding challenge is a moment spent practicing weakness. Every difficult action you choose instead is an investment in your strength. One way to start choosing harder actions is to identify the areas where you feel the most hesitation or discomfort. Look at the tasks you postpone, the conversations you avoid, and the opportunities you reject because they feel too demanding. Those are the exact areas where growth waits for you. The more you face them, the faster your confidence grows. Taking action in these areas may feel exhausting at first, but the energy it builds is not temporary, it compounds. Each time you push yourself to act when your instincts resist, you reinforce your ability to handle more in the future. Another principle is to break down difficult actions into manageable steps. The thought of doing everything at once can paralyze you, but if you start with a single concrete step, the task becomes more approachable. Each completed step creates momentum. Each small victory signals to your mind that you are capable. That momentum builds a chain of confidence that stretches into every part of your life. The important thing is to start. The size of the first step is irrelevant compared to the commitment to begin. You also need to understand that discomfort is a teacher. When you feel stress, resistance, or fear, it signals that you are moving beyond your current level. Many people run from these signals, but the most successful individuals embrace them. They recognize discomfort as evidence of growth. They lean into the challenge rather than retreat. Every time you choose the harder action, you increase your tolerance for struggle. You build the habit of facing what others flee, which sets you apart naturally. Over time, the presence of difficulty no longer intimidates you. It becomes familiar territory where you know you can succeed. Hard actions often require sacrifice. You may need to give up immediate pleasure or convenience. You may need to allocate time to practice, study, or work when your friends are relaxing. You may need to resist impulses that bring temporary satisfaction but long-term harm. Sacrifice is never enjoyable, but it is essential. When you willingly accept these sacrifices, you develop the kind of self-discipline that reinforces your confidence. You begin seeing yourself as someone who honors commitments, respects their goals, and values growth more than comfort. Another factor is patience. Confidence built from hard actions is rarely instant. You may struggle, fail, and feel discouraged along the way, but those moments are part of the process. Every attempt strengthens your capacity, even when it doesn't feel successful immediately.
The key is consistency. Repeating the hard actions, even when you want to quit, builds reliability in yourself. You start trusting your own ability to follow through. That trust is the foundation of long-term confidence. You also learn accountability through challenging actions. When you choose to do what others avoid, you are responsible for the result. You cannot blame luck, other people, or circumstances. You become accountable for your success and failure. That accountability reinforces maturity and self-respect. People who act only in comfort often avoid responsibility. They wait for external validation. They rely on others to lead the way. But when you consistently take on the hard actions, you own your life. Confidence grows naturally from ownership. Sometimes, choosing harder actions means taking risks that others shy away from. Not reckless risks, but calculated risks that push you into areas of growth. Many opportunities hide behind fear. If you avoid stepping forward, those opportunities remain locked. When you act despite fear, you expand your capability. You become someone who can navigate uncertainty and create results where others see only obstacles. That ability is rare and valuable. Confidence follows immediately because you prove to yourself that fear does not control you. Another key aspect is preparation. Hard actions become less intimidating when you prepare adequately. Studying, planning, and practicing in advance reduces anxiety. It gives you clarity and focus. Preparation itself is a hard action because it requires effort before immediate reward. Many people skip it because it feels boring or unnecessary. But those who invest in preparation consistently outperform those who act without it. Confidence grows because preparation gives you competence. Competence fuels courage. Courage allows you to face challenges effectively. You also need to learn to embrace failure as part of the process. Hard actions do not always lead to immediate success. You may stumble, make mistakes, or encounter setbacks. The difference is how you respond. When you treat failure as a lesson rather than a defeat, you build resilience. Each time you recover and try again, you strengthen your belief in your ability. Long-term confidence is not built from winning alone. It is built from repeatedly proving to yourself that you can handle difficulty, recover, and continue moving forward. Consistency is critical. One isolated hard action does not produce lasting confidence. You need to create a pattern of choosing difficult actions every day, every week, and every month. That consistency trains your brain to expect effort, to trust your ability, and to see yourself as capable. Over time, these repeated choices form a foundation of confidence that is unshakable. When challenges arise, you face them with a sense of calm, because you have already proven multiple times that you can handle the pressure. Your environment also plays a role. Surround yourself with people who value growth, action, and effort. Being around individuals who seek the easy path can make your hard actions feel unnecessary or extreme. Being with people who challenge themselves encourages you to raise your own standards. The actions you choose are reinforced by the company you keep. Long-term confidence is not built in isolation. It grows in an environment where effort, persistence, and courage are respected and modeled consistently. Finally, understand that long-term confidence transforms every area of your life. When you face difficulty deliberately and repeatedly, you gain trust in your decision-making, your judgment, and your resilience. You take on opportunities that once seemed intimidating. You communicate with authority. You act decisive. You carry yourself with strength because you have proven over and over that you are capable. Confidence, built through hard actions, is not fragile. It is durable. It is earned. It follows you, and it sets the stage for every success that comes afterward.
Chapter 7. Stop running from discomfort and face what needs fixing. Most people spend their lives avoiding discomfort. They sidestep conversations they fear, postpone decisions they dread, and ignore problems that make them uneasy. This avoidance creates a temporary sense of relief, but it costs far more in the long run. When you refuse to face what needs fixing, the issues grow larger and more complicated. Small problems, left unattended, eventually turn into obstacles too heavy to lift. The life you want is waiting on the other side of those challenges, but it requires you to stop running. It requires courage, honesty, and a willingness to confront what you've ignored for too long. Discomfort signals where growth is needed. Many people misinterpret it as a reason to quit or step back. They see tension, fear, or stress, and assume it is a signal that they are not capable. The truth is the opposite. Discomfort exists because something important is asking for your attention. It exists because there is work to be done, decisions to be made, or patterns to be corrected. Learning to face discomfort is not just a skill. It is a mindset. It is a way of seeing obstacles as opportunities to strengthen your ability, to sharpen your judgment, and to improve your life. When you face what needs fixing, you start with honesty. You look at your circumstances without excuses. You identify areas where you have delayed action. You examine the decisions you have avoided because they felt overwhelming. This process is uncomfortable because it requires you to admit mistakes, to acknowledge neglect, and to take responsibility. Many people never grow because they stop at avoidance. They refuse to acknowledge reality. But true transformation begins the moment you face it head-on. Awareness is the first step. Action follows naturally when you are honest with yourself. Avoiding discomfort also affects your confidence. Every time you choose to sidestep a challenge, you reinforce the idea that you cannot handle difficulty. Your mind begins to accept fear as authority. Your decisions shrink, your potential diminishes. But when you start confronting discomfort consistently, you rewrite that pattern. Each action you take, no matter how small, proves to yourself that you are capable. Over time, these repeated experiences build a sense of reliability and self-trust that cannot be taken away. Confidence grows not from ease, but from facing what others avoid. Many people run from discomfort because they fear failure. They fear that confronting a problem will expose them as inadequate. They worry that trying to fix something will make them look weak or incompetent, but avoidance guarantees nothing changes. Failure is not the enemy. Staying in the same place, ignoring problems, and allowing discomfort to dictate your behavior is the true obstacle. Failure teaches lessons that avoidance never can. Each time you confront what needs fixing, you gain insight, experience, and perspective. You learn strategies that prepare you for bigger challenges in the future. Facing discomfort requires patience and persistence. Many challenges cannot be resolved overnight. Some require repeated effort, trial and error, and a willingness to adjust your approach. People give up too quickly because they want immediate relief. They want problems solved instantly. They want the discomfort to vanish without doing the work. But meaningful growth comes from consistent effort. Each day you face a challenge, even in a small way, compounds over time. Small steps toward resolution accumulate into powerful results. Persistence becomes the engine of transformation. Another reason people avoid discomfort is because of habit. They are used to taking the easy route, postponing decisions, and ignoring tension. Their patterns are deeply ingrained. They repeat behaviors that bring temporary comfort, even if they cause long-term struggle. Breaking these habits requires conscious effort. You must notice when you are avoiding, name it, and choose differently. Every decision to face discomfort instead of running reinforces a new pattern. Over time, what once felt painful becomes natural. You begin to act decisively even when the situation is tense or complicated. A critical part of confronting what needs fixing is prioritization. Not every problem is equally urgent.
Identify the areas that, if left unattended, will have the greatest negative impact. Focus your energy where it matters most. Addressing small, less significant issues can be helpful, but your main focus should be on the challenges that shape your future. When you act strategically, your efforts produce results that multiply. You gain control over situations that previously seemed overwhelming. You reduce the chaos that avoidance creates. Facing discomfort also builds resilience. Life is unpredictable, and problems will always arise. The more you practice handling difficulty, the stronger your response becomes. You begin to approach challenges with calm, clarity, and confidence. You no longer panic when tension appears, because you have trained yourself to act rather than react. Resilience is not something that happens automatically. It is earned through repeated confrontation with the uncomfortable, through problem solving, and through persistence despite fear. Every challenge you face strengthens this muscle. Emotional management is another key factor. Discomfort often triggers stress, frustration, or anxiety. Many people run simply to avoid feeling these emotions. But emotions are signals, not obstacles. They tell you where attention is needed. Learning to experience discomfort without being controlled by it is essential. You practice observing your feelings without judgment. You respond to challenges with logic, planning, and action, rather than panic. Emotional control reinforces your ability to face difficulty without hesitation. It prevents minor discomfort from derailing your progress. Another important element is accountability. Many people avoid problems because they feel they can escape responsibility. They hope someone else will intervene, or that circumstances will magically improve. But growth and success demand ownership. When you face what needs fixing, you accept responsibility for your life. You understand that no one else will solve your problems for you. That ownership strengthens character. It builds integrity. It fosters the confidence that comes from knowing you are capable of taking control rather than waiting passively for change. Practical action matters more than perfection. You do not need to have every detail figured out before you act. Waiting for the perfect moment often becomes an excuse to avoid discomfort. The moment you take deliberate, focused action, you reduce fear and increase momentum. Action creates clarity. It transforms uncertainty into result. Every time you confront what needs fixing, you gain knowledge about the situation, yourself, and your abilities. That knowledge empowers future decisions and reinforces the habit of addressing discomfort directly. Reflection is also part of the process. After you take action, review the results. Consider what worked, what didn't, and what you learned. Reflection turns experience into wisdom. Many people avoid reflection because it requires honesty. They fear discovering mistakes or weaknesses, but reflection strengthens competence. It helps you avoid repeating errors. It enhances your confidence in tackling similar situations in the future. Combined with action, reflection accelerates growth and strengthens your ability to manage discomfort consistently. Another aspect of growth is embracing responsibility for your mistakes. Avoiding problems often includes blaming others or circumstances. Confronting discomfort requires admitting errors, taking corrective action, and moving forward. This is not easy, but it strengthens your character. Each time you face an issue honestly, you reinforce your capacity for integrity. You demonstrate to yourself that you can correct mistakes without losing control. That self-respect contributes directly to confidence and stability. Physical and mental preparation support facing discomfort, taking care of your health, improving focus, and strengthening endurance. Make challenges easier to manage. People often underestimate the connection between preparedness and courage. When your body and mind are trained, uncomfortable situations feel less threatening. You approach problems with energy and clarity, rather than fatigue and hesitation. This preparation turns discomfort from an enemy into a manageable, navigable part of your life. Over time, you will notice a shift. Challenges that once caused fear will feel approachable. The act of confronting problems becomes habitual. You will no longer shrink from discomfort because you have repeatedly shown yourself that you can handle it. Each victory, each solution, each resolved difficulty reinforces your sense of competence. That competence becomes confidence. That confidence allows you to act decisively, create meaningful results, and step into opportunities that others avoid. Finally, remember that growth is never comfortable. The people you admire, the lives you aspire to, the successes you hope for, all require facing what others avoid. Avoidance offers short-term relief, but long-term limitation. Confrontation offers growth, clarity, and empowerment. When you stop running from discomfort, you gain control over your life. You develop resilience, confidence, and wisdom. You take the steps that transform problems into solutions and setbacks into opportunities. The moment you face what needs fixing, you step into a life you could never reach while running away.
Chapter 8. Catch your negative thoughts and redirect them toward progress. Negative thoughts are a force that almost everyone experiences, and yet most people allow them to control their lives. They wake up with doubts, fears, and worries before they even take action. They replay mistakes from the past and imagine failures in the future. They allow the mind to narrate a story of limitation and lack, convincing them that progress is too difficult or that success is impossible. The truth is, negative thinking is not the problem. It is simply a signal, a pattern that can be noticed and redirected. The moment you catch your negative thoughts and consciously guide them toward productive action, your life begins to change dramatically. The first step in this process is awareness. You must become vigilant in observing your mind without judgment. Notice when thoughts appear that discourage you, undermine your confidence, or convince you to settle for less. Do not fight them immediately or pretend they do not exist. Simply recognize them. Awareness allows you to step back from the automatic narrative of your mind. It creates space to choose how to respond rather than react. Once you understand the patterns of your own thinking, you gain the ability to interrupt them before they dictate your actions. After noticing a negative thought, the next step is evaluation. Ask yourself whether this thought serves you or holds you back. Many thoughts feel convincing, but they are based on assumptions, fear, or habit rather than reality. They whisper that you are not capable, not worthy, or not ready. You must challenge these statements with evidence and reason. Look at what you have already accomplished. Consider the skills you have built. Reflect on the challenges you have overcome. Evaluate whether the negative thought aligns with the facts, or whether it is simply a repetition of old patterns that no longer apply. Questioning thoughts in this way begins to weaken their power over you. The third step is redirection. Once you catch a thought and evaluate it, you must consciously guide your mind toward a constructive alternative. For example, if a thought says you cannot handle a task, replace it with the thought that you can take small, focused steps to make progress. If a thought tells you that your goals are too big, remind yourself that progress happens incrementally and that consistent action creates results. Redirecting thoughts is not about pretending or suppressing reality. It is about using your mind as a tool rather than a tyrant. It is about turning energy that would paralyze you into energy that propels you forward. Consistency is crucial in this process. Your mind has been practicing negative thinking for years, and it will resist change. At first, you may find yourself slipping back into old patterns. That is normal. The key is persistence. Each time you catch a negative thought and redirect it, you reinforce a new habit. Over time, your brain begins to expect productive thinking rather than destructive narratives. This habit of conscious redirection becomes automatic. You stop giving your attention to what holds you back and begin focusing on what moves you forward. This repeated practice rewires your mental patterns for success. It is also important to notice the triggers of negative thinking. Certain situations, people, or environments can provoke self-doubt and fear. By identifying these triggers, you can prepare yourself to respond differently. You can anticipate the moments when negativity is likely to appear and have strategies ready to redirect your thoughts immediately. Preparation strengthens your ability to maintain focus and confidence, even in challenging circumstances. It turns potential weaknesses into opportunities for mental growth and resilience. Another critical principle is replacing general negativity with specific, actionable thought patterns. Thoughts like "I will never succeed" are vague and disempowering. Transform them into precise, actionable reflections, such as "I can take one step today toward improving my skills," or "I will focus on completing this task now and measure progress afterward." This specificity turns abstract fear into a tangible action plan. Your mind begins to see solutions instead of obstacles. You stop feeling overwhelmed and start feeling capable. Actionable thoughts are powerful because they create immediate direction and clarity. Gratitude is a tool that supports this redirection. When negative thoughts arise, reflecting on the elements of your life that are working well strengthens perspective. Acknowledging the progress you have already made diminishes the influence of doubt and fear. It reminds you that you are not starting from zero, that you have resources, abilities, and experiences to draw from. Gratitude shifts your attention from scarcity to potential, which naturally fuels forward momentum. Combining awareness, evaluation, redirection, and gratitude forms a comprehensive approach to transforming negative thoughts into progress. Your environment also matters significantly. Negative thinking can be amplified by exposure to people, media, or situations that reinforce doubt, pessimism, or fear. Surround yourself with individuals who inspire action, provide constructive feedback, and encourage resilience. Engage with content that teaches, motivates, and models positive mental habits. Limiting exposure to negativity reduces the constant influx of thoughts that need redirection, making your practice more effective. A supportive environment reinforces mental discipline and strengthens your ability to maintain progress-oriented thinking. Journaling is a practical strategy to reinforce this mental work. Writing down your thoughts as they arise helps you catch them in real time. You can evaluate them objectively and create a written record of your redirection process. This practice makes patterns more visible and reinforces accountability to yourself. Each entry becomes a map of how your mind moves and how you consciously guide it toward growth. Over time, reviewing your journal reveals the progress in your mental discipline and the increasing capacity to handle challenges with clarity and confidence. It is also important to understand that negative thoughts often exaggerate worst-case scenarios. They assume failure, rejection, or disappointment before any action has even been taken. Confronting these exaggerations directly weakens their influence. Ask yourself how likely the feared outcome actually is, and what steps you can take to prevent it. Separate realistic assessment from emotional exaggeration. This process not only strengthens rational thinking, but also reduces the anxiety that fuels negativity. Your mind becomes an ally rather than an adversary. Visualization can complement this approach. Instead of focusing on failure,
Imagine taking effective actions and achieving measurable progress. Visualization reinforces the redirection process by providing your mind with a clear, positive model of success. It helps your thoughts align with behavior and encourages consistent effort. By repeatedly directing your focus towards solutions and results, you train your brain to anticipate success rather than struggle. Mental imagery reinforces practical thinking and motivates consistent action. Developing a routine of reflection at the end of each day reinforces progress. Review moments when negative thoughts arose and how you responded. Celebrate each successful redirection and identify opportunities to improve further. This reflection transforms experience into skill. You develop the ability to notice patterns more quickly and respond more effectively. The combination of awareness, evaluation, redirection, gratitude, environmental control, journaling, visualization, and reflection creates a full system for transforming negative thoughts into a driving force for action. Recognize that perfection is not required. You will not catch every negative thought, and you will not redirect perfectly each time. The goal is growth, not flawlessness. Each attempt strengthens the habit. Each action demonstrates to your mind that progress is possible. The small victories compound over time, producing a mental environment that supports resilience, productivity, and confidence. The most important factor is commitment to the process. Persistence builds the mental muscle needed for consistent progress. Your thoughts are not destiny. You can change the trajectory of your life by mastering how you respond to them. Catching negativity and redirecting it toward action is not a temporary fix. It is a lifelong skill. It strengthens every decision, every relationship, and every opportunity you encounter. The practice develops clarity, courage, and discipline. You stop being reactive and start being proactive. You stop being paralyzed by fear and start creating results. Every step of conscious mental redirection reinforces the belief that your mind is your tool, not your master. In the long run, people who master this skill operate with a sense of control and freedom. Challenges no longer feel insurmountable. Mistakes no longer feel devastating. Fear no longer prevents progress. Every negative thought becomes a prompt to examine your mind, correct your assumptions, and take constructive action. Life begins to reflect your improved mental discipline. Your confidence grows because it is based on repeated evidence of capability rather than wishful thinking. You begin moving faster, clearer, and stronger toward the life you want. Ultimately, the key principle is this: your thoughts shape your behavior, and your behavior shapes your results. Negative thinking is not a sentence. It is a signal. The difference between a life of stagnation and a life of forward momentum is how you respond to those signals. When you catch negative thoughts and consciously redirect them toward progress, you reclaim control over your mind. You develop resilience, sharpen focus, and consistently take the steps that produce meaningful results. The practice transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary growth, and uncertainty becomes a signal to act rather than to shrink.
Chapter 9. Use your free time to build a stronger future. Time is the most valuable resource you have, and yet most people squander it without realizing its power. Hours slip through your fingers each day while you watch shows, scroll endlessly, or drift without focus. That free time could be the foundation of a stronger future, yet too many treat it as expendable. The truth is that how you use your free time determines how quickly you grow, how well you adapt, and how far you can rise. Free time is not wasted. It is an opportunity to build skills, knowledge, habits, and resilience that will shape the rest of your life. Every minute invested wisely compounds into results that seem invisible at first, but become unmistakable over time. The first step is recognizing the potential in your free time. Most people fail to see how these hours accumulate. An hour a day spent learning a skill, reading a book, or planning your goals quickly becomes hundreds of hours over a year. These hours, when directed toward meaningful action, separate the average from the extraordinary. Small efforts accumulate, Each choice to invest your time in growth creates momentum that carries you forward. The key is intentionality, deciding that your free time will serve your long-term objectives rather than immediate comfort or distraction. To use your free time effectively, you must prioritize activities that create leverage. Not all actions are equally valuable. Watching educational content, practicing skills, writing, or engaging in disciplined exercise produces lasting returns. Social media, passive entertainment, or reactive behaviors rarely do. The difference is between time spent consuming and time spent producing. Producing creates results, skills, and opportunities. Consuming alone creates temporary distraction. By prioritizing high-value activities during free time, you actively invest in yourself and the future you are building. Planning is essential. Without a plan, free time often disappears unnoticed. Even 10 minutes of aimless scrolling can become an hour without you realizing it. Decide in advance what you will focus on during free time. Schedule activities that directly support your growth. This planning prevents wasted energy and ensures that every spare moment contributes to progress. The plan does not need to be complicated. A simple structure, identifying priority actions and allocating time for them, is sufficient. Discipline applied consistently over time is more powerful than bursts of effort followed by neglect. Consistency compounds results. You may not notice immediate change from a single hour spent wisely, but repeated action transforms your capabilities. The person who practices a skill every day for a year becomes significantly more competent than someone who only studies occasionally. The person who invests their evenings in learning and reflection accumulates knowledge that sets them apart from peers. Free time, when used strategically, becomes a reservoir of progress that compounds into extraordinary advantage. Every decision to act rather than idle is a vote toward the life you want to create. One of the most overlooked aspects of free time is reflection. Many people fill every moment with activity without stopping to assess their action. Reflection allows you to measure progress, identify mistakes, and adjust your approach. Even a short period at the end of each day to review accomplishments, failures, and next steps can magnify the impact of your efforts. Reflection transforms busy work into meaningful work. It converts effort into insight and ensures that time spent produces improvement rather than mere activity. Learning is a central use of free time. The most successful people are not the luckiest. They are the ones who continuously expand their skills, knowledge, and understanding. Reading books, taking courses, practicing new abilities, and seeking feedback are all ways to invest in your future. Free time provides a unique opportunity for focused study without the pressures of daily obligations. The more you learn, the more confident and capable you become. Skills acquired today become opportunities tomorrow. Knowledge gained today becomes decisions and actions that change your circumstances. Discipline is another critical factor. Free time tests your self-control. It is easy to justify relaxation or distractions because no one is watching. However, using this time productively separates those who achieve from those who do not. Discipline in small moments creates habits that sustain long-term growth. The person who consistently applies effort when there is no immediate reward trains their mind to persist through challenges when stakes are high. These habits shape not only your free time, but also your response to life's pressures. Accountability enhances the effectiveness of free time. Share your goals or projects with someone who encourages progress. Reporting your efforts and results creates motivation and reduces procrastination. Accountability provides structure and reinforces commitment to your objective. When you know your actions will be observed or measured, you naturally increase focus and effort. Combined with intentional planning and disciplined execution, accountability magnifies the results of free time investment. Avoiding unnecessary distractions is essential. Free time can be stolen by digital devices,
idle chatter, or reactive habits. Learn to identify what pulls your attention away from productive actions. Set boundaries for technology, limit social media, and create environments conducive to focus. Protecting your free time is as important as using it. Every moment of distraction is a moment lost from building the life you want. Control over your attention is control over your growth. Balance is also necessary. Using free time productively does not mean eliminating rest or enjoyment entirely. Strategic breaks, exercise, and leisure support mental clarity and sustain energy for growth-oriented activities. The difference is that balance is intentional rather than default. You choose when to rest, when to act, and how to structure your time for maximum impact. Free time becomes a tool for growth, not a source of guilt or wasted potential. The visualization and goal setting amplify the effect of free time. Before engaging in productive activity, clarify what you aim to achieve. Picture the skills you want to master, the knowledge you want to gain, or the outcomes you want to produce. Visualizing the result before action creates direction and focus. Free time spent without purpose can be wasted, but free time directed with clarity becomes a launchpad for consistent progress and measurable achievement. The practice of building a stronger future in free time strengthens mindset. Each decision to prioritize growth over distraction reinforces self-belief. You prove to yourself that your goals matter more than temporary comfort. Over time, this mindset translates into resilience, motivation, and determination in every aspect of life. The confidence gained from consistent, intentional use of free time cannot be imitated or taken away. It is internal proof that you can control your actions and shape your destiny. Incremental improvement during free time matters more than perfect execution. You do not need to spend hours at a time or execute flawlessly to make a difference. Small repeated steps towards skill development, learning, or goal achievement compound into significant progress. Focus on steady application, celebrating incremental wins rather than being discouraged by imperfect efforts. The momentum built through repeated action creates habits that carry you forward long after the individual moments of free time are gone. Mentorship and guidance can also enhance the value of free time. Learning from those who have achieved the success you desire reduces trial and error and accelerates growth. Reading biographies, listening to talks, or seeking advice during free time leverages experience that would otherwise take years to acquire. Free time becomes a high-yield investment when paired with deliberate learning from proven sources. Finally, recognize that free time is a reflection of control over your life. People who consistently direct their free time toward building a stronger future demonstrate self-mastery. They develop skills, strengthen mindset, and produce results that compound into opportunity. Free time used wisely generates confidence, competence, and independence. Every hour becomes a building block for long-term success. Those who neglect free time limit their potential and remain at the mercy of circumstances. The choice is yours. Allow time to slip away, or actively use it to create the life you desire. The central principle is simple: every moment counts. Free time is not empty. It is a canvas to construct your future. Decisions made in these moments shape your identity, abilities, and outcomes. The person who treats free time as an opportunity for growth is investing in resilience, skill, and progress. Over time, these investments compound, producing advantages in income, influence, and personal fulfillment. Your future is built in the hours that others discard. Choose to use your free time intentionally, strategically, and consistently, and you will transform ordinary days into extraordinary results.
Chapter 10. Grow your self-control so you no longer waste money. Most people struggle with money, not because they lack opportunities or talent, but because they lack self-control. They see something they want and give in immediately, believing that a brief moment of satisfaction is more valuable than long-term results. Impulse purchases, unnecessary expenses, and indulgent habits accumulate over time, quietly draining resources that could have been invested in growth, security, or future opportunity. Self-control is the bridge between earning and keeping, between potential and actual results. Without it, even the highest income cannot produce lasting wealth. Developing self-control is not about deprivation, it is about creating freedom and power over your choices, allowing you to make every dollar work for your life instead of against it. The first step in strengthening self-control is awareness. You must recognize where your money is going and why. Many people spend automatically, without thought or planning, and are shocked when they look at their bank accounts. Track your expenses carefully. Understand the habits, triggers, and emotions that drive unnecessary spending. Notice when you buy out of boredom, stress, or the desire to impress others. Awareness gives you the clarity to act deliberately rather than react unconsciously. Without it, self-control is impossible because you cannot change what you do not see. Once you are aware, the next step is to set clear boundaries. Decide in advance what is necessary and what is not. Limit discretionary spending to categories that provide true value. Define spending rules for yourself, such as waiting 24 hours before any non-essential purchase or capping entertainment expenses. Boundaries do not restrict freedom. They create it. By establishing limits, you remove the temptation of impulsive choices. You replace reactive behavior with intentional action. Each boundary enforced strengthens the habit of self-discipline and reinforces the mindset that money is a tool, not a source of instant gratification. Patience is essential for developing self-control. Many people spend immediately because they cannot delay satisfaction. They prioritize momentary pleasure over long-term benefit. Learning to pause, reflect, and consider consequences transforms your approach to money. Delay provides perspective. It allows you to ask whether a purchase aligns with your goals, values, and future plans. Over time, practicing patience becomes automatic. You no longer feel the same urgency to spend on fleeting desire. Instead, you act with thoughtfulness, recognizing that self-control in the present produces greater rewards in the future. Budgeting is not a restriction, it is empowerment. A clear plan for income, expenses, savings, and investments ensures that every dollar has a purpose. Many people resist budgeting because it feels limiting, but in reality, it creates freedom. When you control your money instead of letting it control you, opportunities expand. You begin to see where you can invest in personal growth, skills, or income-generating activity. Budgeting enforces self-control by requiring conscious allocation, reducing mindless spending, and clarifying priorities. Emotional mastery is deeply connected to financial self-control. Many unnecessary purchases are driven by emotions, stress, excitement, envy, or desire for status. The ability to recognize emotional triggers and respond intentionally separates those who accumulate wealth from those who remain in financial struggle. When you feel the urge to spend impulsively, pause and identify the underlying emotion. Ask yourself if spending will resolve it, or if there is a more productive response. Emotional intelligence allows you to redirect impulses into actions that strengthen your future instead of weakening it. Building self-control also requires accountability. Share your financial goals with someone you trust or use tools to monitor progress. Reporting your spending, savings, and investment activity reinforces discipline. Accountability prevents rationalizations and excuses from undermining your effort. When you know your choices are being measured or observed, you naturally become more deliberate. Accountability transforms self-control from a vague intention into a practiced skill that consistently produces results. Another key principle is incremental improvement. Self-control is not built overnight. Begin with small, manageable changes. For example, skip minor unnecessary purchases.
increase savings by a modest percentage each month, or delay gratification in low-stakes areas. Each small victory strengthens your willpower. Over time, these incremental wins compound, enabling you to tackle larger challenges, resist more tempting impulses, and make consistently smart financial decisions. The key is consistent application rather than perfection. Visualization strengthens self-control. Imagine the benefits of restraint before making financial decisions. Picture your savings growing, investments compounding, and freedom expanding as a result of controlled spending. Visualizing the consequences of both discipline and indulgence creates mental clarity. It reinforces the value of restraint and motivates consistent action. When the mind sees the tangible benefit of control, it naturally supports the behaviors necessary to achieve it. Automation is a practical tool to reinforce self-control. Set up automatic transfers to savings, investments, or emergency funds before discretionary spending occurs. By acting proactively, you remove the temptation to misuse money. Automation ensures that your priorities are funded first and that your long-term goals receive attention even when your discipline is tested. Each automated action reduces reliance on momentary willpower, making self-control easier and more reliable over time. Education is another essential factor. Many financial mistakes come from ignorance rather than lack of discipline. Learning how money works, understanding investment, budgeting strategies, and financial principles strengthens decision-making. Knowledge builds confidence and reduces the impulsive choices driven by uncertainty. A well-informed person can see the long-term consequences of spending and can make choices aligned with growth and opportunity. Education reinforces self-control by giving purpose to restraint. Accountability to your future self is equally important. Consider how current spending decisions affect your long-term goals. Each purchase is a vote for the type of life you will live. When you align daily actions with future objectives, restraint becomes meaningful rather than restrictive. Your future self becomes a partner in your decisions. You begin to prioritize investments in growth, security, and opportunity over temporary pleasure. This perspective transforms self-control from a chore into a strategy for freedom and empowerment. Self-control extends beyond money into habits that support financial growth. Time management, focus, skill development, and consistency all reinforce the ability to act deliberately with resources. Each disciplined choice compounds with others, creating momentum toward your goal. A person who applies self-control in multiple areas of life creates a structure that naturally supports financial responsibility. The more you practice discipline holistically, the easier it becomes to resist impulsive behavior in any domain. Understanding the opportunity cost of each decision reinforces restraint. Every dollar spent unnecessarily is a dollar not invested in growth, education, security, or opportunity. Thinking in terms of opportunity cost shifts perspective. You begin to view spending not as an isolated act, but as a trade-off between temporary satisfaction and long-term results. This mindset strengthens control, encourages deliberate decision-making, and aligns immediate actions with future goals. Habits reinforce self-control. Establishing routines for savings, budgeting, and financial review creates automatic structures that reduce reliance on willpower alone. Habitual behaviors free mental energy for strategic thinking rather than constant negotiation of impulse. The more consistent the habit, the stronger the self-control becomes. Habits come powerfully over time, producing long-term financial stability with minimal ongoing effort. Mindfulness supports financial self-control. By being present and attentive to impulses, you interrupt automatic reactions. Each time you feel the urge to spend unnecessarily, pause, breathe, and assess whether the action aligns with your goals. Mindfulness strengthens awareness, reduces reactivity, and enhances deliberate action. It trains the mind to respond rather than react, converting temptation into conscious choice. Tracking progress reinforces motivation. Monitor your savings, spending patterns, and financial growth regularly. Seeing tangible evidence of control in action encourages continued discipline. Each milestone achieved validates your effort and reinforces the habit of restraint. Progress tracking transforms abstract self-control into measurable success, motivating you to maintain and expand your financial discipline. Finally, recognize that self-control is freedom. It is not a limitation, but a tool that empowers you to make deliberate choices, create opportunities, and live without financial stress. The ability to delay gratification, resist impulse, and invest wisely gives you options in every area of life. Wealth is not just income, it is control over your resources, time, and future. Developing self-control transforms ordinary earnings into extraordinary results. Every conscious decision to resist temptation builds strength, confidence, and the foundation for a life of financial independence and opportunity.